when you put processes in place, yeah, initially the setup and execution can feel like a lot more legwork. But then when you get it going, you're not having to get out there recruiting, training, hiring, going through that nasty process of having to replace good people who already buy what you're selling and who are already trained in on the company culture.
Welcome to the Unstoppables, where we turn those intentions of yours into dollars. And the only way you can move forward in life and create financial freedom for yourself is by taking the intentions and turning those intentions into results. My guest and I have a lot in common. We have two things in common specifically. One of the things she learned through school was that she spoke too much, and she was very bright, but she talked too much. Just like, well, they didn't say I was very bright, but they did say I talked too much. Second thing is this. Her husband went to Purdue, and so did I. Welcome to the show, Baily Hancock.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we got some Boilermaker love going on already.
Boilermaker, she's a Florida Gator. She was there a little bit after, right? Or
before Tim Tebow. I'm slightly older.
So there's the Tim Tebow era,
Yeah.
Florida Gator. Now she's in LA. She's a Dodger fan. And we found all this out in about 30 seconds. Baily, the key is this in everything that when I started out, and I didn't know anything about selling. So, but I did have a curiosity, and I had an insatiable curiosity about learning from others and talking to people about their story. And I would just ask, where are you from? I asked you, where are you from? Door open. Your husband went to Purdue. I automatically like you. So I'm automatically going to start, I'm going to try to buy from you. So I love it. You have a statement. Life is too short to hate your job.
Damn right.
Tell me about it. So give me how'd you come up with that? Life is too short to hate your job.
You know, I mean, I had one of those classic quarter life crises at 25. I'm from Florida, like we said. I had done everything right in my life, right? All of the right things. I had gotten into school. I had gotten scholarships. I finished undergrad in 3 years, which is the stupidest thing anybody can do, because why would you rush that? And I immediately got out of school, got a job. I graduated during the beginning of the Great Recession. And so that was kind of an ugly slap in the face, but I made it work. I got married at 23. I bought a home, did all the things. And then at 25, I was like, hold the phone. None of this actually makes sense for me. This is like 15-year-old Baily's plan. And here I am 25. And I'm like, I don't even know that girl anymore. Like, this is a different person. So that kind of started me off on this journey of moving from Florida to California to pursue TV show hosting, which I immediately decided I did not want to do. And I kind of got lost for a while there, did a bunch of random jobs, tried a bunch of stuff. Like you, I'm insatiably curious. I love, learning new things, meeting new people, just discovering new pieces of myself. And I did that for about 3 years while waiting tables and bartending with an MBA and just kind of feeling lost. And it was through all of those jobs that most of them kind of sucked, to be honest, but they were so important for allowing me to have that time to just explore and really experiment with my own career. And it wasn't until a few years after I got back into the real world, we'll say, the non-restaurant world, started working at a job that within 3 days, I knew I absolutely hated. Like 3 days. It might have been a day and a half. And I was like, oh no.
It wasn't insurance, was it?
It wasn't. It was advertising. Yeah.
Can I bounce back and ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because you have such a vibrant personality and you have such an image. What about TV hosting turned you off?
It was the fact that at the time, I thought I had to go about it in the way that was laid out. You had to take the hosting classes. You had to go through the whole, getting to know the right people in the industry to even get you an audition. I didn't want to do entertainment news. And that's kind of what seemed like the options were at the time. So I was kind of like, I don't know if this is for me, but fast forward and I'm kind of doing that in a different way.
Now I'm getting a sense for this, and this is just my perspective, and you can correct it, you can change it. But it seems since when the Baily was 15, she was lining out a certain life in a certain way. And it seems like what's expected by society, at least in corporate America, is there are certain rites of passage that you have to do certain things. And you've kind of looked at that and said, you know what, I'm not going to follow that map. I'm going to go out there and create my own path.
Yeah.
Would I be off on that or?
No. I think once I broke from that mold and was like, hold on, I don't have to do things the way that everybody else does them or the way that society tells you to do them. I think I probably swung too far the other direction, was like, well, screw it, I'm doing everything my way. And so when I got out to LA and was like, oh, this hosting entertainment world kind of doesn't jive with my personality. And I don't know, I don't think I wanted to live for like having to look a certain way and be on TV and, follow all those rules. So it's interesting though, because here I am, a few years later, and I have a podcast as well. And I'm getting to almost fulfill all of those desires that I had about TV show hosting, but in a totally different capacity. So that's kind of interesting.
There's a third reason I like you. You're a contrarian by nature, and so am I. The people will tell me the cutting edge, my man, is the bleeding edge. That's true, but that's, it's a song, but way before your time, way, probably your parents' time. And one of the lines was, Mama always said never to look into the sights of the sun. Mama, that's where the fun is. So I'm always doing something.
I love that.
I'll be bored out of my tree. But the thing that stops people is fear. Because they want to conform to the masses. They don't want to feel like they're being cut out of the herd. So it's fear that really stops them. How would you coach someone to get through their fear?
This has been coming up for me a lot lately because I've been kind of going off on a new entrepreneurial journey in the last year or so. And I have a lot of fear, as we all do. Even the most fearless and brave among us still have those moments of doubt. And for me, what I keep coming back to is recognizing the fact that we have an undetermined amount of time here on this planet called Earth. We have to assume that when we're gone, nobody's going to remember us. Even the great people in history, most people these days don't even know their names, right? So when you really break it down like that and you think about the fact that like, okay, it really is just, I've got this period of time. We don't know how long. I'm here. I want to make the most of it. What are the things that I would be remiss to have missed out on doing while being alive that I should just do? And so when I start to get in my own way and overthink things and get scared, I'm like, who cares? Just do it. Like there is nobody that actually knows for sure pretty much anything. So you may as well just make it up as you go and have a good time and get the most out of this earth trip, basically.
Yeah, the wisest man in the land at the time was Plato. They said, you know everything. He said, I know that I don't know. So I think there's just higher degrees of certitude of what we've been sold or what we think that we know. And knowledge, for the most part, is something that to me is an illusion. So, I mean, what you really truly know, we can go down that philosophical slant and lose just about everybody but Kelsey.
Well, you know what? On that note, before we move on, I have been reading The Daily Stoic, which is by Ryan Holiday. Yeah. It's fantastic. And I think that's 100% where that piece of wisdom came from. Yep. And I was like, you know what? You're right. These amazing people that had the most brilliant thoughts so long ago, most of the world doesn't even know who they are.
Okay, I love the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius is my favorite. He's a travel companion, discovered him on a trip to London, opened up the book in Covent Garden, fell in love. And I will tell you the perspective of the 12th Roman Emperor, Aurelius, and the most powerful man, and that he understood that people talking about him, people saying ill things, or people holding grudges, didn't really matter. We're all going to be dust. We have this short match, not even that long, time, ephemeral time to make a difference here, to enjoy life, to live our life. And the thing is to live our life, not live a life by proxy. I love what you're saying. I love that. You know, what you talked about too, is you're looking inside and you have a perspective, a reflection that you can take from and gain perspective. And then from there, appreciation and the awareness that comes from that you can actually make those changes. That's a precursor to doing what you do.
Yeah.
Now I could just keep talking with you, and I think I would lose some people in the philosophy. But I would keep you. Tell me what your target audience is and what you really do. Why would I come to you? How are you going to help me? How old am I? What do I look like?
Yeah. So, I can go the anti-marketing route and say anybody that's ever had a job is my target audience, but I won't do that. I would say 80% of my crowd, the people that really pick up what I'm putting down, tend to be women between 25 to 40-ish. And I think it works out that way because, absolutely no disrespect to men, but for most of history, business books, career advice, that was written with a man in mind. And obviously we're having quite a moment in the
No,
Me
it
Too
was
movement.
men who wrote the books and the rules.
Yeah,
We didn't
exactly.
mind because we feared the fire of women. But go on.
You know, we could also have a whole talk about that. But yeah, so I think for me, the way that I write and the way that I coach and I motivate is as if I'm speaking to myself. I'm a 33-year-old woman, so I'm kind of smack dab in the middle of that like zone of 25 to 40. And I've been there. I've felt the discontent. I felt the confusion. I felt lost. And I've also felt so in the flow with different jobs. So I felt both ends of it. And I recognize, you know, you go back to this Stoic philosophy of we're not going to be around forever and nobody's going to remember us when we're gone. When you really just go from a macro perspective like that, there's no reason to not pursue something that could be great for you. However, I think what my message comes across as is a dose of, you know, strategy plus motivation plus commiseration. It's like, yeah, let's talk about how frustrating things can be in your career. It sucks to find a new job, but we have all of this ability out there and all of these options and nobody's really stopping us. So there's motivation. And then the strategy is like, okay, fine. How do we do this? So that's the way that I approach helping people and motivating people. And at the end of the day, to go back to your first question, life is too short to hate your job. We are going to be working for 40 plus years, probably longer at this point. You may as well enjoy what you're spending most of your days doing, because how you spend your days is how you spend your life. And it's just not worth it to go in day after day just being miserable, or at least not feeling good about what you do.
Kelsey's a 26-and-a-half-year-old woman.
She's in my zone.
Comes to you. She comes to you. And what's the first thing you do? What's the first fact finding? How do you start that? Probably it's commiseration is probably the first thing. But what do you do and where do you take her next?
I think the piece that's most important for people when they're at the beginning of questioning whether what they're doing is right for them is really assessing the situation. Because many times we confuse disliking our job with disliking our life, and we lump everything together. And in reality, a lot of the time, it's the same with relationships. There's probably one key factor that's just off for you that could maybe be shifted. And maybe that's not going to keep you happy forever, but it'll at least buy you time to be thoughtful about what you might want to do next or what you could amplify in your existing situation. So I always say, what can you turn the volume up on? What can you turn the volume down on in order to make your situation a little bit better?
Bill. I like the amplify.
Turn the volume down on Bill.
Turn the volume down on me would probably be better. I'm going to amplify you. If you call yourself, and I think you are much more than this, a collaboration consultant. So you're working together. You're working with someone. You're not dictating. You're questioning. Using the Kaizen 5 Whys.
Oh, love that Lean Six Sigma too. We're on the same.
Ooh, look at you throwing the black belt shit at my head. You, man, you're fast. But if people look to amplify their situation, whether it's work or relationships, like you said, and bring out the best, and probably try to find those things. You know, we always find what we look for. To find those things that can help us, it's going to make us a better person, deep to our core, I think.
100%. Yeah. And to your point about the title, so I call myself a multi-passionate entrepreneur because I am very much indicative, I think, of the millennial culture of wanting to do all the things, right? And not wanting to get pigeonholed and get stuck. So part of my life is I'm a collaboration consultant where I work with entrepreneurs, small business owners, larger companies to help them grow their community with collaboration, which is just fun because it's always more fun to work with other people. And career happiness strategist, which is the other side of my life. And that's where a lot of this stuff comes in.
Have you sold your soul in the Faustian bargain of working with corporate America to get in there and teach them how to motivate and change up their workplace? Or is that too fearful for corporate America to hire someone like you because they might lose their people?
You know, that's the goal. And I think the opposite would happen. The whole philosophy and book and online course and all of that good stuff that I'm working on is called the 1-Year Career, Make Big Moves with Small Steps. And one of the pieces of that puzzle is working directly with managers and companies to help them understand how to treat their employees as individuals, both recognizing what their unique motivators are and leveraging the fact that people don't stay at jobs for very long anymore. So while you're with each other, make the most of your time, get the most out of your employee, give the most you've got to your company. And I swear the world would be a happier place if people enjoyed going to work every day.
So here I am sitting here as an employer and I'm thinking, man, that sounds like a shit ton of work.
Right.
But the corollary to that is this: it's a lot more work to recruit and hire and the right talent and train the right talent, correct?
100%. And I would argue that when you put processes in place, yeah, initially the setup and execution can feel like a lot more legwork. But then when you get it going, you're not having to get out there recruiting, training, hiring, going through that nasty process of having to replace good people who already buy what you're selling and who are already trained in on the company culture. And the other piece of this, though, this isn't just on companies and managers to retain and engage their employees. This is on the employees to take ownership of their careers and help the managers help them.
Yes, because the one thing we coach here is you work for yourself.
Absolutely.
You work for yourself. You are either building your value every day in everything you do, everything you think, every thought you take, every action. You work for yourself. You are the franchise of you, and that is where we coach and how we coach. But you know, so many of us are, in my generation, subscribe to the Jack Welch ossified school of this is how we do it. Cut the 10% non-performers, and we follow those effing rules right off the cliff like lemmings. We're a bunch of lemmings following rules off a cliff, and the rules do not exist.
It used to work, though. Jack Welch was like that. He was the end all be all when I was getting my MBA, because it was like, this is how you do business. And it was. Unfortunately or fortunately, humans continue to evolve, and so does our culture and workforce. And here we are.
Fortunately, because the essence of my book, Always Forward, there's my plug, is about the evolution of the species and how we have to evolve and adapt and grow, because you can't sit on success. You know, you have to always be better today than you were tomorrow. You have to make those incremental, as you said, steps forward in life, because there is no such thing as stasis where you're just sitting in a vacuum, hermetically sealed. Life happens, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And on your website, you have a section called Network Like Your Career. Depends on it, because it does.
Certainly does.
The networking doesn't have to suck, right? Because you really can. So convince me that, how do I network, and why is it beneficial, and why is it fun?
Well, so anytime people get hung up on the word networking and they're like, oh God, it sounds so sleazy and fake and forced, I say, fine. Think of it as curating your community, right? Think of all the people in the world that you don't know yet. Anytime people, a lot of introverts specifically, come to me and they're like, I just can't walk into a room of strangers and handle, like, it's too much. I'm like, imagine this, as you're walking into that door, think that one of your future best friends is in that room, and tonight's the night that you meet. How much more excited are you going into that event or networking party or whatever it is, knowing that like you're going to leave that night meeting your new future best friend? Like, how exciting is it? It just switches the script, right? So you can't do anything in life without people around you helping you. I don't care who you are. On my podcast, I force people into telling me who opened the door for you, who made that connection for you, who took a coffee with you out of the goodness of their heart, because that's the backbone of how you do anything in life, is by you helping the people around you, and vice versa. So it's not really an option to not continue to grow your community. You're going to stagnate.
We're all connected. It's a matter of by degree. And the theme on the show has been, from the people who are top performers and the people who are the thinkers and doers, is that we are here to share. If we share and we contribute, our platform is going to be elevated. And that's just the way it's about sharing. So many people look at it as a entitled, or a place of expectation, or the law of scarcity, where they're just trying to keep those things to themselves. I'm an abundance guy.
Doesn't work, guys.
For increase in people's lives. And I want to hit you on a life question here, because if you had two circles, it'd be life and business are one. There is no separate subset of life. There ain't no separate subset of business where you just park it. And you talked about getting a bounce from both. Relationship advice. What's the key? Good, healthy, fun relationship. You can give me 2 or 3 if you like.
Yeah.
I don't want to limit your words.
So I am married. I'm recently married this year. And I will say the thing that's worked out about this relationship over any of the others is just mutual respect. And I think that goes for love. It goes for friendships, business. It's genuinely respecting the other person, even when you don't agree with them, and believing that they have your best interest in mind, and vice versa. And I mean, that goes for building and maintaining your friendships and your professional relationships too. The people that I've worked with know, if I've worked with you in the past, if I've collaborated with you in the past, I'm sorry, but I'm never letting you go. You're part of my crew now, and I'm going to continue to send you business and vice versa, support you, reach out when I don't need something, and just, spread the good word about who you are to anybody that'll listen.
So there's a constant care and feeding. In
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It really is anchored by mutual respect. And I always say it's about respect and self-respect to people. I coach this, that if you give away, you're the only one that can give away your self-respect. You give it away, no one's going to respect you.
Yeah.
In the nature of a relationship, we talk about mutual respect. And when it's not there, you don't have a relationship. You've got some divisive, maybe a collaboration for a short term, but you really have the fertile environment for people to grow. And I think that's a huge point, a great point by you. And the other reason why you get along really well with your husband is because he went to Purdue. He's a red bricks guy. The first person to step on the moon was Neil Armstrong. You know, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. He's a Purdue guy. I mean, there's not to love about Purdue guys. We're down to earth.
You know, he's from California, went to the Midwest for school and came back to California. But I think that little bit of Midwest, you know, influence definitely it laid into his personality, and he's just a kind, wonderful person. So I assume the same about you.
Well, he's smart because he did that. Because see, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and I bounced out to the Midwest, and I came back to school in Pennsylvania at Penn State, got my master's, and I said, "Where's California? Because I'm going there." And then I have never left. I don't even go. Man, the only time I go to the Midwest is to give a talk. What's the first question you would ask 26-and-a-half-year-old Kelsey when she walks into your office or you meet up for coffee? What's the first question you're going to ask her about anything?
So I asked two questions, but the very first one, and it feels pithy and not important, but it's, what did little Kelsey want to be when she grew up? And I used to roll my eyes at that question a lot because it feels so reductive. And it's like, well, we were kids. What do we know about the world? But I think there's always nuggets of truth in that answer. And I'm always curious to see what people thought that job was going to mean. So for me, I always wanted to be on Broadway or be a teacher or, you know, be an actress. And all of the commonalities between those are being on stage, having an audience, and like performing and being able to be creative and teaching. And I'm doing all of that now without having a single one of those specific roles. So when I ask people, what did you want to be when you grew up? They always say something that I can say, okay, so what did that mean to you? Like, what did you think your day in and day out was going to look like? And if they are doing that in some capacity in their current role, they're generally happier. And if they are so far from it that they're like, I mean, what does this have to do with anything? I'm like, maybe let's try and look for something that would get you closer to those feelings or those desired like daily actions. Because I think there's a lot of truth that's in that little answer.
You know, oh, Kelsey's smiling back here. So
well, because my
she wants to jump in here.
Stupid.
What's your answer?
I'm hearing this question or these questions. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist. And so you took it a step further and is trying to get to the bottom of it. And I think I wanted to be an archaeologist just because I loved Indiana Jones so much. So my answer.
That's fair. So maybe you really wanted adventure. Maybe you really wanted to discover.
She got it.
This job is certainly
she got it.
Well, you must be insanely happy with your job.
I am. Yeah, that's true.
This is wrapped as adventure. It's become an adventure. So Baily, this show is about being unstoppable, and that is overcoming the odds and adversity. And she's going to interrupt me on this thing, so go ahead. This is called conversationalist interrupt us.
No,
it's like a hotel room. You're in there, and there's a knock on the door. It's the maid.
I'm absorbing all this information because normally I listen to these interviews with like an analytical mind. But right now I'm just absorbing everything that she has to say. But she said that she has two questions, and we heard.
Yeah. So that was the first question. Second question is, what's your favorite part of your current situation right now? So like your job, like what's the piece of your job that if everything else sucks, you've got something to cling to? Like, I mean, honestly, some of the worst jobs I've ever had, the answer has been, well, they bring in free donuts on Fridays. When that's your best part of your job, you better change some shit because that's not okay. But if you're like, well, honestly, I really like that I get to work on these projects once a quarter. Okay, cool. Can you ask for more projects? Can you, focus more of your energy towards the pieces that you actually like? So again, it's turning up the volume. It's amplifying the good stuff so that the stuff you want to turn the volume down on isn't so prevalent in your everyday.
Okay, here's the fear one. Here's the fear one. And here's the one that we can go back to the Stoics on. But I make too much money, person may say, and I have bills to pay, and I've got responsibilities at home to make this jump, although this job sucks, and I'm trying to find that pebble to tie in something that I like or I appreciate. But man, other than the money that I need, and there you're 31, 32, 33, 34, what would you say to me?
I mean, I think life is a series of choices, right? And we obviously have to weigh our unique scenarios and situations when we're making those choices. But That's not to say that you can't make a change without disrupting your entire life. You know, if you absolutely hate everything about your job, but you're making money you need to make, fine, go work with a career coach or recruiter and find something at the same financial level that gets slightly closer to something that would actually feel good. And then keep making those incremental moves until one day you're like, oh, actually, I'm really into my situation. And, you know, the long and short of it is we all really need way less than we think we do. And so if you get real with what your baseline needs are in life, and that includes if you have a family and all of that, then you're usually able to say, okay, I can afford to take a minor cut for a short term in order for long-term happiness.
Right. So, and this is a breath of fresh air. You are not a one size fits all.
No.
What's made you unstoppable and continues to make you unstoppable, if I'm going to recap this thing, is that you break from the mold. That mold to you is something to run from, to break free from, and you're able to recognize the unique motivators in others, and you're able to curate from your community and curate your community. I think those are the three things that make you unstoppable.
All right, I'm in.
Plus you're fast. You got a great repartee. You're able to reflect. You got a husband from Purdue, man. You got everything going on.
I'm doing good in life. If it never, you know, and I honestly say this to myself every morning when I do my little morning mindfulness and I read my daily stoic. If things don't ever get better than this, I'm not mad at it. My life is really solid, and I don't think that it's any better or worse than it was in years past, but my perspective is different. And so that makes all the difference in the world.
Baily, take from this seat, I have a no regrets philosophy. And we found that in studies, the people who had regrets, they had the worst kind of regret they had was for stuff that they didn't do, not so much for stuff they did. So like 89 of the respondents in this hospice place was, we have regret for what we didn't do. I play it forward, and you play your life forward as well. I picture myself sitting somewhere at some time or being in some place where I can't do those things then that I can do right now. That's my regret. I don't want to live with that. So I'm doing those things to put myself in a position where I can live my best life right now. It sounds trite, but it's
true.
We've got an Instagram question for you. So I see a lot of hearts coming up here. I assume they're for me and my outfit. I don't assume they're for you.
It's a great vest.
Did I ask for that or what? Do you think anyone could be a business owner, or is it built into your DNA?
So I do think a good amount of entrepreneurship is something that you either are or aren't. And truthfully, I'm kind of an anti-entrepreneurship person, even though my master's degree is a specialization in entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur. I come from an entrepreneur. However, of course, anybody can literally do whatever they want in some capacity. And I do believe that. And so if you have the drive to own your own business or your own company or start something, you can handle it if you choose to. It is hard freaking work. I will tell you that. Like, I have never worked harder, longer, more hours, been more exhausted than since being my own boss. However, the payoff in that is that I get to wake up every day and decide how my day is going to go. I get to spend an hour in the morning having a mindfulness routine because I make time for it. And so, yes, you can do it, but it is by no means easier than working for somebody else. And the people that I see that say, my problem is I just don't like having a boss. I should just have my own company. I'm like, yeah, that's not your problem. Your problem is that thought right there that you think that it's your boss. Spoiler alert, it's not your boss, it's your attitude. And so, yes, absolutely. Anybody can do it. Do I think some people are slightly better suited for it because maybe they have a slight crazy mind, like most entrepreneurs that assume they can do anything and, you know, they're okay with failure and risk? Yes.
You know, what I found, I think that to Inspirational Durden's point, he's my friend, is a DNA, it's a part of DNA, because I am one of those people who love to go across the tightrope and I don't need a net. I don't want a net. I need the adrenaline bounce. And a lot of people need a net and they don't even want to go across the rope. They just want to watch you do it. And they want to be paid for watching you do it. But the reward comes from, it's the same place, the same thing, and looking into the sun, because that's where the fun is. Doing those things in higher elevations of that rope without the net. That's me. And I'll tell you the thing about being an entrepreneur. There are entrepreneurs and there are intrapreneurs inside a company. Doesn't mean you have to go out there and start your own business, because you're always going to be the CEO of your life.
Absolutely.
It's going to be the franchise of you, no matter what. Do not cede that responsibility to someone else. And in that way you are. Are we qualified by talent, by drive to be a true entrepreneur? Don't know. But we can be a damn good entrepreneur, growing and doing what you say. Finding those things that have a balance of and amplify the good stuff and maximize your value that way. Now,
Absolutely.
I really appreciate what you said there. You've been on a journey and you're fast tracking. So how would you define in your terms, not from someone else, not from the Stoic, not from Bill Wooditch? There's a great one. How would you define, I have no problem with my ego. I actually do. How would you define success?
For me, success is being in charge of how you spend your days. That's what's become my definition of success in the last couple of years. It used to be money. It used to be fame, recognition, things like that. For me, I need to feel like I can spend my days being creative, being surrounded by intelligent, kind, smart people who I actually enjoy being around and learning from, being able to follow my curiosity wherever the hell it goes. And let me tell you, that thing's like a bumblebee sometimes, and it's hard to follow it, but it's always fun and it's enjoyable. So, and of course, yeah, right. Having abundance in every sense of the word, right? I don't need millions and billions of dollars, but you're damn right. If I fly across the world, I want to fly first class because it's just better, you guys. I flew to Bali for my honeymoon and we were in first class, and I was like, oh, damn it. I have to be rich now because I can never go back.
Yeah. You know what that's called? It's called the hedonic treadmill. Where once, luxuries are now necessities. So that's,
it's too late to turn back.
I want to come back to something that I don't want to be lost in all the other seminal brilliance that you're giving me, but you said being in charge of how you spend your days. And I want the viewers to think about that. I want them to think about their lives. Are they really in charge of how they spend their days, or are they doing things because they're obligated to do them and thinking they'll get to next later, and it just never shows up?
You can't assume it's ever going to change.
Being in charge of how you spend your days is a unique, and I embrace that view of success. You've had failures.
Oh, sure.
What do you think your biggest failure was, and what did you learn from it?
It's hard to say because I think I'm like you. I don't really regret pretty much anything because I literally wouldn't be sitting here in California had I not gotten married at 23 and divorced at 25. I bought a home in 2007. Anybody seen The Big Short? Yep, that was me. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that on paper look like missteps, but for me, they're data points for going forward. They're lessons learned so that I won't do that again. I guess failure. Yeah, I really, honestly, I don't think I can come up with a clear one in terms of the unique or the traditional sense of the word, because they really are all data points. Mm-hmm. And I bounced back from them, which I think is the most valuable piece of lesson that I could have ever had.
Gotta have the resilience gene.
Yeah.
If you don't have the resilience gene, man, you're going to be...
Good luck. You're not going to make it out of your 20s if you don't have the resilience gene.
I made it out of my garage.
Yeah.
Success isn't final and failure isn't fatal. That was Churchill, and I live with that.
That's good.
Most of the people on the show, if not all on the show, have had a difficult time, like you did, with failure because they're thinking, it's really a setback. So they don't embrace the word or own the word as a final place. They're thinking, no, it's just a touch point. It's a reference point. It's what I learned from. It's part of the deal, part of the bargain. And it's just really a setback. So I see some of the great minds like yours struggle with that. What was that? I love that because that's how you keep moving forward.
It's not personal. Failure isn't personal.
No, it's not
about you. It's just circumstantial.
I like that. I could kind of put that up on a quote. I think I might send that out as a tweet, but I'm going to take credit for it.
Excellent.
You have a podcast,
man.
You have a podcast. You have a podcast, and you have 2 new subscribers, me and Kelsey.
Oh.
It's called the Baily, Baily Hancock, Hancock show. Can you tell us where to find it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over the damn place. Google Play, iTunes, Overcast, you name it. But it's been the most fun I've ever had because, as you can probably tell, I like talking to people, and that's literally what I get to do. And I get to be curious and nosy about how people have gone through their careers. And I try to interview people who love what they do, who are normal people working in normal jobs. I have entrepreneurs on for sure, but I think that story has been told pretty well so far. And so I get to ask people like, well, what's so great about your job? How are you going to keep that happy feeling going when maybe you have a dip in your, your love for it? What's going to be next? Like, how are you motivating yourself? How are you moving through your career in a way that feels like an adventure rather than something that just sucks? And, a lot of commonalities come out of it. And I think curiosity is a big one. Leaning on the people around you, going back to the networking thing, is a huge commonality that comes up in every conversation. Nobody got anywhere without somebody helping them.
Great guests, you experience this too, make great shows, and you're a great guest. So
Thank you.
Assuming this is a great show.
I'm having the most fun of my entire career so far. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so far.
True, right? That's the key word, right? You got to assume. You got to keep going. Keep moving.
Baily, if you could just give me one. What is your defining moment? Just one.
Probably getting in my car in Florida with everything that could fit in my Honda Fit. Great plug for the Honda Fit. It looks small, but damn, it packs a lot of stuff in there. My friend and my 2 cats, Buster and Fiona, and driving 2,600 miles down I-10 West till I landed in Santa Monica, California, to completely start my life over. And you know why I did this? Because in the midst of my 25-year-old quarter life crisis meltdown explosion of my life, I, with a friend, went to a tarot card reader, and that tarot card reader said, "So you're moving to LA at the end of the year?" And I looked at her like, well, this is a waste of money. Nope, definitely not doing that. And literally the next day I started thinking, you know what, screw it. What do I have to lose? So 8 months later, sold everything I owned that didn't fit in the Honda Fit, got my MBA. 2 weeks later, I was on my way to California, and that has literally changed the entire trajectory of my life.
I always remember Bob Dylan's song says, when you got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
And those are the people to me that are the most dangerous. They're inspired and they got nothing to lose, and they do what you do. You cross that Rubicon River, the ancient river in Rome that Caesar crossed with his standing army, that no army was allowed to cross that river, right? He did it. That was ultimate commitment. There's no way back. Once you stepped in that water, you go back, you're subject to treason, you're dead. Went all the way and changed the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. You got to be able to see that Rubicon, cross that Rubicon, 2,600 miles away, you did it. And here you are on the Unstoppables. Wow, does it get any better than that?
Life moment.
It's a life-changing moment. If I was to work with you, how are you paid? Are you paid on a hourly basis? Is it a contract basis? How do people come out and say, I want to employ your services?
Yeah. So the way that I work is I'm less of a one-on-one coach kind of person because I know myself and I get very wrapped up in individual people's needs. So I'm more of a light switch turner-oner. So I teach workshops. I have an online course coming out, writing a book currently. I've got the podcast. So I'm more of a empower people with the knowledge to go ahead and do this on their own, or provide them with solutions by connecting them to the right actual individual coach for them. So I make my money from selling the products, selling the courses, teaching the workshops, speaking. I don't know if this comes as a complete shocker, but I love doing speaking engagements. And that's one of my most favorite things that I do. So that's kind of how I make my money. And like I said, I'm a collaboration consultant too. That's my whole other side of my life. And that pays the bills, frankly, right now while all of this is growing.
I just don't find the speaking thing. I kind of got thrown off.
Shocking, right?
Of course I see you out there doing that. You're a dynamic speaker. You kidding me? You're an object lesson. So object lessons are this. You actually are a living example that you're teaching. And that's called credibility. And that to me is the essence of the show. I want you to stay on when we sign off. So don't go away so I can just kick some more stuff around with you, because I'm loving the way you think. And I think so much of your mindset is important for people who want to be unstoppable, who want to go forward, that you have to be able to break out of that mold. You have to be able to reflect. You have to recognize the opportunity in every meeting, networking properly, curating the community, and always doing the thing that has made me at least get to this point. You know what that thing is? Always forward. You got to go always forward.
Always.
It's always forward. Baily, you were fantastic. Baily Hancock on the Unstoppables. She was great.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you.